All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. Now, there are some folks from the world of the NBA who are upset that the NFL has invaded their turf, if you want to call it that. The reason why I say this is for years, the NBA and Christmas Day have been synonymous with each other. As even though that the season for the National Basketball Association typically gets started around late October until recently, they pushed it up a little bit. But nonetheless, December 25th is usually when the basketball season really starts to ramp up and get into fifth gear. But in recent years, we've seen things change as we've seen the National Football League extend their footprint into Christmas Day, as sports fans now either have their choice to watch a football triple header or nonstop basketball action as the NBA now puts on 5 games. So, for those who think that this is a new endeavor for the NFL, Howard, okay, they need to think again. And the reason why I say it is there was a time when the NFL season was shorter, and also B, that the season got started a little bit earlier. So usually around Christmas, we like the regular season had already ended, and we're getting into the playoffs. And there have been times in the past, like long before this, where the NFL did have postseason games on Christmas Day, and there were the rare occasion, okay, where the NFL would have a game on Christmas Day. I'm old enough to remember that guess what? If Christmas Day fell on a Sunday, those games would be on a Saturday, okay, if they were still regular season games, the bulk of them. But nonetheless, we still really didn't see that frequency of the NFL on Christmas Day to recently. And the biggest thing is it's now changing. And I've said this before because the voices in the ownership room of that league have changed. And now more than ever, the NFL is focused and solely focused on getting as much money as possible. They don't care where it comes from, okay, or whose toes that they're going to have to step on to get it. Now, some folks in the NBA might be mad about this. I get it, okay, but I feel like the NBA got caught with their pants down. Okay. And unlike their league, the NFL is really not taking their foot off of the throttle as they're all about getting as much cash as possible and getting as much exposure as possible for their product. And like I said, they don't care who they got to run over to do it. So you think about it with the Christmas Day battle between these two mega sports leagues, if you will. It's the tail end of the regular season in the National Football League, which means that there is more importance for those games with the playoffs are right around the corner. And typically those games have playoff implications, albeit that the Christmas Day slate for the NFL this year was not great. Okay. It looked great when the schedules came out in the spring. It looked great when the regular season started back in September, but we're talking about a lot of injuries that really changed the outlook on Christmas Day for the NFL. Why? Because 5 of these 6 teams that participated in this triple header for the National Football League, they were playoff teams just last year. Okay, now to the NBA's credit, we saw them counter with 5 games, and of course, 9 of those teams made the postseason from last year. And I will give the NBA credit; it was a phenomenal slate of games that they put together this year. But I feel like this, and please, if you want to jump in and you feel that I'm wrong on this, I'm all ears. But I feel that the NBA, okay, the biggest thing that's hurting them, in my opinion, is their current image. And the reason why I say it is this: NBA Commissioner Adam Silver has spent so much time, money, and resources in recent years to try to get his players to quote unquote play hard. You think about tanking and load management. These are 2 things that have really hurt the NBA's image in recent years, in my opinion. And with the NFL's season so short in comparison to that of the NBA, there's really not a lot of room in that league for players to sit out unless we're getting to a point now. We've got week 18 next weekend. We're going to have teams that have already clinched their division, already clinched the first round bye. And it's all about getting your guys or making sure that your guys are as rested and as fresh as possible for the postseason. That's just about it. But nonetheless, you don't go to an NFL game or you don't turn on an NFL game week 5, 6, or 7 during the regular season. And okay, if you're expected to see Patrick Mahomes play, or if you're expected to see Amon-Ra St. Brown play, or if you're expected or you're expecting to see Saquon Barkley play, unless those players are out due to injury, they're going to play. It's not a situation where the star players that are expected to play are sitting out because of load management. So that has hurt the NBA, in my opinion. Okay, and I've got news for the National Basketball Association. The NFL, with all of their momentum, it's not slowing down anytime soon. And with Christmas Day to fall on or around the weekend in the next few years, I expect the NFL to continue to schedule games on this holiday. All professional sports, when you peel back the surface, are about entertainment. Make no mistake about it. But in my opinion, the NFL in recent years has really embraced it more than the NBA, and they've gotten ahead of this thing. The NBA, to their credit, their players want to be compensated like top tier entertainers, excuse me. But unfortunately, we never know when these top tier entertainers are actually going to show up and perform. So the NFL, to their credit, they envision having Jaden Daniels go out there this year, quarterback for the Washington Commanders on Christmas Day. They envision having Patrick Mahomes under center for the Chiefs in a game between two playoff teams from last year. But the injuries are what kept them from going. And not that they wouldn't have been out there if they were not hurt. Okay. And that is, again, something that plagues the NBA. Now, should the NBA be upset about the NFL moving in on their turf? Absolutely. But you have to, if you're the NBA, you've got to make sure that your fort is not able to be penetrated, which they didn't. And again, in the past, we have seen NFL games on Christmas Day. But I think right now, the NFL has just taken over this thing and they're running with it. It's all about a battle for ratings. And if that's the case, it looks like the NFL is winning this thing right now. Are we going to see this battle between the NBA and the NFL for Christmas Day go away anytime soon? Absolutely not. Too much money is at stake for both of these leagues. A lot of pride on both sides. I'll tell you like this. I remember there was a time when the NBA only had one or two games on Christmas Day, and they always were the marquee teams, and it was always must see TV. And to their credit, the NBA has tried to, capture the entire day. And I look at this year's slate, very good slate of games that the NBA put out there. Cleveland at the Knicks, Spurs and the Thunder, Mavs and the Warriors, Rockets, Lakers, T Wolves, and the Nuggets. And like I said, 9 of those 10 teams were postseason teams from a year ago. A lot of star power on all of these teams that played, on Christmas Day in the NBA. Donovan Mitchell, Jalen Brunson, Carl Anthony Towns, Victor Wembanyama, SGA, Anthony Davis, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, LeBron James, Anthony Edwards, and of course Nikola Jokic. So, but still, it's one of those where I think it goes back to an image problem with the NBA. I do remember, I think it was about 2012, where this was the shortened season because of the lockout, and this was actually opening day for the NBA. And of course, they didn't have to worry about an NFL at that time. But nonetheless, I think one of the marquee games of that day, it was a rematch of the NBA Finals from the year before. It was Oklahoma City and Miami. Okay. And of course, people wanted to tune into that game. People wanted to see who got the season started on the right foot. Now, clearly, the NBA is not going to shorten the season, okay, because there's too much money to lose there, and they're not going to push back the start of the season to Christmas Day to have something, to focus on for that day. I think what the NBA has to do, they just have to make their product, their on-court product, as strong as possible because people are always going to want to watch football. I will give the NBA a ton of credit, like I said before, for the teams that they put out there. You want to make this as attractive as possible for the coming season. And I'll tell you like this, if I'm the NBA and they have an advantage in this situation from the standpoint that the NFL schedule is released much earlier than the NBA schedule is released for the upcoming season. So if you're the NBA, definitely you could sit back and see how can you counter this with the best games possible. And I think they tried this year. Okay, they really did to do that. But nonetheless, it's a dog eat dog battle. I think there's room at the table for both. Don't get me wrong, but nonetheless, the NFL ain't going away no time soon. I mean, listen, we've got the NFL showing regular season games on the same day as a college football playoff. We have the NFL who has found any workaround, okay, with antitrust agreements to have games on Fridays now at the beginning and at the end of the college football campaign because, again, they want as much ratings, as much exposure, and as much money for their league as possible. So, at the end of the day, typically when you have competition like this, it makes everybody better. And I think it's one of those where I think the ultimate winner from all of this is going to be the fan because you know, or you're going to know that both of these leagues are going to attempt to put the best product possible on this marquee day for their fans to watch, and that's what it all comes down to, in my opinion. So the NBA, like I said, they've got to keep their foot on the throttle. They've got to try to catch up to the NFL, if you will. And I guarantee you, the NFL at this point, they ask no quarter and they give no quarter. But nonetheless, folks can be mad about it all you want. But guess what? The NFL ain't going away anytime soon on December 25th. But folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank each and every one of you for checking out the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. And as always, if you like what you heard and saw on this podcast, you know what to do. Just hit that like button as well as subscribing to this channel. And like I always say, it is greatly appreciated. Also, if you are on the X, formerly known as Twitter, you can check me out anytime at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you give me that follow, it'll be my pleasure to do the same in return. And that also goes for Instagram, where you can check me out at 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge. Also, if you're on Facebook, please be sure to check out the Sports Depot 365. And as far as I'm concerned, one of the better sports groups going on social media. But until next time, fine folks, my name is William Martin, and I'm signing off. And I'm saying thanks once again for checking out the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. Be well, everybody.